There's a good shot of a Thursday evening in the big city.
It's not that clean, y'all. It's not that clean.
New York Knicks fans are beside themselves after what happened in Game 1 on Tuesday night. Too much to process in terms of Jalen Brunson. Welcome, everybody, to NBA Tip-Off. It's presented by AT&T. Here we are, Studio J in Atlanta, the Inside the NBA crew, along with Shaq and Kenny and Chuck, Ernie Johnson. That's very smart. That's very sharp.
Thank you,
a lot
brother.
of thought went into that.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Into what?
So,
Into
my
this
outfit, brother.
into this fit.
I didn't.
No, his fit.
You can't hear, brother?
No, I'm just.
What if I slap hell out you? Could you hear?
Well, you're gonna hear some thunder. What was hear some thunder coming?
Now, what was your issue with Cat? What was the issue?
Oh, no, he had a issue. I don't have an issue.
These guys who be spending all their money on bags.
Why are you counting somebody else?
That's not the point.
It's not your money.
You don't have to show people when you got money. Get you just
Why?
a regular old little bag and walk in the arena. Don't spend all that money on the bag. You're gonna need that money one day.
Like that fanny pack you used to sport.
That's
That's quality.
Come
That's
on, man.
quality bag.
That's a $20,000 bag
That's
right
quality
there.
bag. You don't need no cheap bag.
That's $20,000 he ain't gonna have to spend on something else.
You know, like blackjack.
Yep, double down. Always double down on 11.
Shaq, is this a silly argument to be having as we start the show?
Shaq,
But it's Chuck.
but you agree with me though, right?
First of all, how you know the bag is 20 stacks?
Because I've seen it
That's a
before.
Hermes bag. I think that's Hermes. That's about 20.
I wouldn't know because I'm like you.
I think
Chuck.
it is.
So you're not a 20 stacks bag
Hell
carrying
no.
guy.
He should kill O'Neal.
Talking to a man who has 28
Toomey.
cars.
Toomey.
Everybody has their vice.
T-U-M-I.
No, Toomey.
Good.
Ain't nothing wrong with Toomey.
Toomey.
Now that we've got all that out of the way, while the Cavs' biggest lead in Game 1 was 22, it was still 20 with 7 minutes left. And no team in playoff history had come back from that deficit with that time remaining. And it's not exactly a small sample size. Teams were 0-663.
Jeez.
But then Tuesday happened, and the Knicks roared back to win in overtime. Now the question, what is the lingering effect on Cleveland?
We had 3 quarters of really good basketball. Some of the best basketball we've honestly played in the playoffs. Looking back on it, the fourth quarter, what I'm probably more disappointed about it was our offense. Shot quality wasn't great. And for 3 quarters, the ball's moving. We're passing it to the open guy. Swing. It was beautiful basketball. And then, I don't know.
I mean, we gave them a game. I think 90% of the game we controlled it. The last 10%, they did a great job. You got to give them credit too for not giving up and making shots at the end. And that was the game.
We got to come out ready to go. I think we did. It was the middle of second and third quarter where we let go of the rope. They were playing great basketball. Had us on our heels. I mean, we don't want to be in the position where we're down 22 again. But regardless of what the score was, being able to fight back, having that mindset, it definitely helps.
Here it is. This is the place, what it's about. You live between misery and awesomeness, in the playoffs. And this is, of course, misery, but it's probably the 4th miserable game, 4 or 5 miserable games we've had in the playoffs. So it's like, okay, come on, get back on the horse. We go back at it.
Cavs are 8-7 overall in this postseason, and this was the final 12:52 of that game, which went into overtime, so the last 7 and change in the 5-minute overtime period, and the dominance of Jalen Brunson over Cleveland as a team. And now we head to the Garden where Lisa Salters is going to be working the sidelines tonight. So, Lisa, 48 hours later, how are the Cavs mentally handling what happened in Game 1?
Yeah, Ernie, well, that's been the question for the Cavaliers, like you said, for the last 48 hours. How do they mentally recover from a loss like this? And Kenny Atkinson's response has been, well, the same way we did all those other times that we had those bad losses in these same playoffs. Atkinson said they went through this when R.J. Barrett hit the 3 that almost bounced as high as the ceiling in Game 6 in Toronto. They were crushed when they failed to close out the last series at home. That was devastating too, he said, and our response has always been, hey, let's get back on the horse and just keep going. So the Cavaliers, at least outwardly, appear to be owning what happened. They also seem determined to move on. Donovan Mitchell said he really didn't have an answer as to why he didn't score in overtime. He and James Harden were a combined 1 for 10 from the floor with just 3 points in the last 12 minutes of game one. Donovan was asked if he was healthy, if perhaps there was an injury that maybe he was playing through, and he said, no, I feel great. Now, Donovan said that he wasn't going to overreact to what happened in game one, that it was a bad loss, but that it was just one loss. And his plan was just to watch the film and figure some things out for tonight's game two. Ernie?
Lisa Salters, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Shaq, I got a question for you because we've heard like the Cavalier players afterwards saying, as Lisa points out, hey, it's one loss, it's a loss whether you lose by 40 or whether you lose by 1. Is that something you would truly believe or something you feel like you need to say?
You need to say it, and if you want to win a championship, and if you think your team has the potential to win the championship, you have to embed that in your mind. My question is, can they bounce back from it mentally? You know, listen, it was a tough loss. They're in New York, 48 hours. I was actually in New York. I read the articles. The articles were killer. Can they bounce back? We're all players. We have egos. So, you know, as you heard Coach and Donovan say, we missed some shots. The offense, you know, forget the defense, you know, forget all that. We missed some shots. So if you stick to that excuse, if you believe that excuse, and if you come out and play like you think you're going to win a championship, you do have a chance. But again, can they bounce back emotionally? I'm looking to see if they know how to make in-game adjustments. You can't let a guy go at my guy 7, 8, 9, 10 games in a row. At some point, you got to call a timeout. At some point, one of your teammates got to grab you and say, hey, man, send them this way to the help. So can they make in-game adjustments? Will they be ready emotionally? And will they believe the excuses that they set up for themselves?
Chuck, Kenny Atkinson, you heard him say that the offense was the thing that jumped out at him and how stagnant things got in that last 7.5 minutes.
Well, first of all, let's get one. Kenny Atkinson had a bad 6 minutes, and the Cavs had a bad 6 minutes. First of all, if you got a 20-point lead, your offense and defense sucks. Let's get that out the way. That ain't just no offensive thing. I do think their offense got stagnant first and foremost, but they didn't play it. They can't let James Harden just get abused like that. First of all, if he's not going to play any better defense, because not only he messed up on one-on-one on Brunson, if you have to go back and look at the tape, he left those guys open for those wide open threes in the corner. So you factor in when Brunson was, they took him off Brunson, they put him on other guys, and he gave up 2 wide open threes. Right here, you know, come on, man, that's just a layup. I mean, this is just like, now at this point right here, you just can't let him just cook this dude. Now, this is just like, listen, the house is on fire. You just got to get your family out. Now watch this here. Hey, now too late now. The house is way on fire.
There ain't really no help you can do with that 1-4 flat.
Well, you got to take the ball out of his hands. Look at that. This is like Ernie, this is like 7 times in a row.
And Mike Brown said, hey, it's no secret. We were attacking James Harden.
Yeah.
And the same question you asked Brunson the other night, Shaq.
Yeah, man, listen, James Harden is not a great defender. However, Brunson is not a great defender either. So if I'm Cleveland, I'm also going at him. The last, you know, when he hit those 7 shots in a row on defense, he rested on defense, which allowed him to have great energy on offense. So if he's going to attack our guy's got to attack him also.
How do you keep James Harden out of that situation again tonight, Kenny?
Well, you know, James, first of all, James is 36 years old.
Oh,
so you know, he should be getting cooked by
Brunson.
By Brunson. You know, however, you know, he is still formidable on the offensive end. So if you're going to hide him, at times you're gonna have to go double. And who am I gonna leave? I'm gonna leave Bridges or I'm gonna leave Hart. And I'm gonna say you guys are gonna have to be stars in this series. And if that happens, congratulations. But if you allow this guy to play one-on-one basketball, he has been the clutch player in the NBA at one time. I think the best clutch player down the stretch. And he's been Little Wemby in terms of down the stretch for these games. So you can't allow him to play that. Or you go zone. You're like, oh, we're just going to zone up because this guy's just beating us off the dribble and we don't have the personnel to do it. But the last thing I would do, I would not switch pick and rolls. Like, my guys got to fight through or go under to not have James Harden guard him in those things. But why are we switching every single pick and roll when all you have to do is fight through a screen by another guard? So he's not even fighting a screen
on a big.
From a big. He's fighting it from another guard. He could just get through that screen and play who wants to guard him, guard him. And
But
stop
also,
switching.
if you look at those plays, it wasn't no screen coming. That was just cooking James' ass.
Yeah, that
so
was one for
number one,
flat.
James got to take more pride in his defense. But Coach Atkinson, he didn't make any adjustments. He had two timeouts that lead went from 22 to 10 before he called the first timeout. At that point, the house is on fire.
It went from 22 to 5.
And before he called a timeout.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, and we're screaming,
Yeah.
yo, man, timeout.
Yeah, timeout.
And then, because you know, when you get to the 2-minute mark, you lose those timeouts anyway.
You got two max in the last 2 or 3
so
minutes
you
of
got
the game.
you're like, why are you saving time? What are you saving for, a spring break? No, that's not need that. But also, you got to take James out the game. If you got Donovan out
Don't
there,
switch. Just don't switch.
No, but I'm saying if James gonna get cooked like that, Dennis Schroeder gonna compete more. Wade gonna compete more. Struth's gonna compete more. Those guys are good, hard-working defenders. You just cannot let that happen.
Just put James on Josh Hart and you're fine. And don't switch.
As we head to break, again, I guess revisiting the Karl Anthony Towns accessory.
That's not a bad outfit, man. That's too much money to spend on a bag is what I said.